Welcome, everyone. Today's story is about determination, self-learning, and the incredible power of consistency. Many people believe that learning English requires expensive classes, private teachers, or living in an English-speaking country. But this story shows that with the right mindset, daily practice, and patience, it is possible to make amazing progress on your own. In this story, you will discover how one person transformed from someone who could barely understand English into someone who could confidently read, speak, and communicate within just 6 months, without a teacher. The lesson from this story is simple but powerful. Success does not always depend on having the best resources. It depends on using the resources you already have and never giving up. There was once a young person who dreamed of speaking English fluently. Everywhere he looked, English seemed important. It appeared on websites, in books, movies, job advertisements, and educational videos. He often watched successful people communicate confidently in English, and deep inside, he wished he could do the same. However, there was one major problem. His English was very weak. He could recognize a few simple words, but when he heard people speaking naturally, everything sounded too fast and confusing. Reading English books felt difficult, and speaking even a simple sentence made him nervous. Because of this, he often thought that becoming fluent was only possible for talented people or those who had excellent teachers. For many years, he kept delaying his dream. Whenever he thought about learning English, he felt overwhelmed. He searched for courses online, but some were too expensive. He looked for teachers, but they were not easily available. Sometimes he started learning for a few days and then stopped because he could not see immediate results. As time passed, his frustration grew. He felt stuck. One evening, after struggling to understand a simple English video, he made an important decision. Instead of waiting for the perfect teacher, the perfect course, or the perfect opportunity, he would become his own teacher. He promised himself that for 6 months, he would practice every day without making excuses. The next morning, he created a simple plan. He knew that trying to learn everything at once would only lead to failure. Therefore, he decided to focus on small daily actions. Every day, he would spend some time reading easy English stories, listening to simple audio, learning new vocabulary, and speaking aloud. He did not care about being perfect. He only cared about being consistent. The first few days felt difficult. Even beginner stories contained words he did not know. Sometimes he had to stop every few sentences to check meanings. Reading one page could take 20 minutes. Yet he continued because he remembered his promise. One of the most helpful tools he discovered was graded readers. These books were written specifically for learners. The language was simple, the sentences were clear, and the stories were interesting. Instead of struggling with difficult novels, he started reading stories designed for his level. At first, he could only understand about half of what he read. However, he noticed something encouraging. Many words appeared again and again. The more he read, the more familiar those words became. Slowly, reading stopped feeling like hard work and started feeling enjoyable. Every completed story gave him confidence. At the same time, he developed a listening habit. Every day, he listened to simple English content for at least 30 minutes. In the beginning, he understood very little. Sometimes he caught only a few words from an entire conversation. Nevertheless, he kept listening. He realized that children learn their first language by hearing it repeatedly, not by understanding every word immediately. So he listened while walking, cleaning, resting, or traveling. Week after week, his ears became more familiar with English sounds. Expressions that once sounded strange started becoming natural. The biggest challenge was speaking. Since he had no teacher and no speaking partner, he felt unsure about how to practice. Then he found a simple solution. He started talking to himself in English. At first, his sentences were extremely basic. He described what he was doing, what he could see, and what he planned to do tomorrow. Sometimes he made mistakes in almost every sentence, yet he continued speaking aloud every day. He did not worry about perfection because nobody was judging him. This daily practice slowly trained his mind to think in English instead of translating everything from his native language. After the first month, the progress was not dramatic, but it was noticeable. He could understand more words than before. Reading became slightly faster. Listening felt less confusing. Most importantly, he no longer felt afraid of English. Instead of seeing it as a giant mountain, he saw it as a path made of many small steps. This change in attitude gave him motivation to continue. He understood that fluency was not achieved in one day. It was built through hundreds of small victories. During the second and third months, his confidence grew significantly. He expanded his reading habit and started keeping a notebook of useful words and phrases. However, he did not simply memorize them. He created sentences using each new word. This helped him remember vocabulary naturally. He also began shadowing audio recordings. Whenever he listened to a sentence, he paused and repeated it aloud. This improved his pronunciation, rhythm, and speaking speed. Although his accent was not perfect, he became more comfortable expressing himself. There were still difficult days. Sometimes he felt tired and unmotivated. Sometimes he forgot words he had already learned. Occasionally, he compared himself with fluent speakers and felt discouraged. On those days, he reminded himself how far he had come. Just a few months earlier, reading a simple paragraph seemed impossible. Now he could finish entire stories and understand their main ideas. Instead of focusing on how much was left to learn, he focused on the progress he had already made. By the fourth month, something surprising happened. He started thinking in English during daily activities. Simple thoughts appeared naturally without translation. When he saw an object, the English word often came to mind first. While watching videos, he understood many sentences without subtitles. These moments felt exciting because they showed that English was slowly becoming part of his life rather than a separate subject to study. The fifth month brought even greater improvements. He challenged himself with slightly more advanced content. He read longer stories, listened to more natural conversations, and practiced speaking for longer periods. Mistakes still happened, but they no longer stopped him. He understood that mistakes were evidence of learning. Every error showed him what needed improvement. Instead of feeling embarrassed by mistakes, he became curious about them. Finally, the sixth month arrived. Looking back, he could hardly believe the transformation. 6 months earlier, he struggled to understand basic English. Now he could read books designed for learners with confidence. He could understand much of the spoken English he encountered daily. Most importantly, he could speak about his experiences, goals, and opinions without freezing in fear. He was not a perfect speaker, but he had achieved something far more valuable. He had proven to himself that consistent effort could create remarkable change. One day, he met someone who asked how he had improved so quickly. The person expected him to mention an expensive course or a famous teacher. Instead, he smiled and explained his simple routine. Reading every day, listening every day, learning vocabulary and context, speaking aloud, and staying consistent. The secret was not talent. The secret was persistence. While many people searched for shortcuts, he focused on daily action. His story soon inspired others. Friends who believed they were too old to learn English started practicing again. Students who lacked confidence began reading graded readers. People who thought they needed perfect conditions realized they could start with the resources they already had. His journey showed that progress belongs to those who continue moving forward, even when the results are slow. Today, whenever someone says, "I can't learn English because I don't have a teacher," his story serves as a powerful reminder. A teacher can certainly help, but determination, consistency, and daily practice are often even more important. The path to fluency is not reserved for a lucky few. It is available to anyone willing to practice patiently and persistently. What can we learn from this story? The lesson is that success comes from consistent effort rather than perfect conditions. You do not need to know everything before you begin. You do not need expensive resources or special talent. Small daily habits can create extraordinary results over time. If you read a little every day, Listen a little every day. Learn a few new words every day and practice speaking every day. Your skills will grow. Progress may feel slow at first, but every step matters. Just as this person learned English in 6 months without a teacher, you can achieve your goals by believing in yourself, staying patient, and never giving up on your journey.